Welcome everyone to Good Morning Cannabis, and it is a great morning. I have two of my friends on today. This is a double, what's that called? A double decker or I don't know,
Double
double.
header.
Thank you, a double header. Wow, I forgot baseball. Maybe it's not good. I have Walt and Rick, and I'm going to take them in kind of in order. I'm going to take Walt, then Rick, only because that's the way you're appearing on my screen. So once you actually speak, your face will pop up. But Walt, before you tell everyone who you are, and then Rick, what's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you? Give me something that's happened to you that's the strangest thing, because everyone wants to know that.
The strangest thing. I have to really dig into the memory bank to find something really strange that
Or
happened.
something extraordinary, or something that's memorable.
Well, I will say specific to cannabis. One of the things that occurred or happened within the last year. I was attending MJ BizCon in Vegas last year, and I was leaving one event and heading to another event, walking through Mandalay Bay at the time, and I bump into Steve D'Angelo.
Okay.
And now I have followed Steve for most of my career, most of my involvement in cannabis. And it's been a personal bucket list to get a chance to share some air with the gentleman and just have a conversation. So we bumped into each other. We got to take a photo, got to hang out for a little bit. And for me, that was monumental. I mean, and all that I'm doing around this industry, my feelings are very similar to Steve, and altruistic and trying to raise the bar for all of humanity. So bumping into him and spending some time with him was one of those bucket list items for me, specific to cannabis.
Awesome. So Rick, we're going to go to you. What's the craziest thing that ever happened to you besides having four kids?
Luckily, only three of my own
Okay.
that I know of. But
Okay.
I will say, as it relates to the strangest thing, I actually never thought I'd ever be in, around, or related to being in the cannabis industry, much less realizing the benefits of cannabis on a personal level.
Right.
I was raised in a very conservative family in the military. We were athletes. The idea of marijuana, if you will, was never part of our vernacular vocabulary for anything other than quote unquote the potheads behind the bleachers. Fast forward, 25, 30 years. Yes, that's how old I am. I was able to get off of 11 pharmaceuticals as a result of cannabis related products.
Awesome.
Understanding my personal health journey, going from taking stuff from my orthopedist to my gastroenterologist, issues with Barrett's esophagus, precancer, all the way down to treatment for my back. At one point on 11 different medications, one trying to cancel out another because it was causing deleterious effects to my intestines. And then it took me 18 months. But understanding that there was a natural way to get through all of that using supplementation, plant medicine, and CBD products. I wake up 29 out of 30 days pain-free as a result of it, and none of those issues with my gastrointestinal tracts themselves. So for me, I think that I would have never thought I would have been here. But funny enough, it's not even how I got into cannabis in the first place, but I can truly see the first person effects on how it can affect your life and living a better, more healthy life.
Awesome. So we're going to stick with you, and then we're going to bounce back to Walt. So Rick, tell us a little bit, actually pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it. And just tell us a little bit about your background and some of the things that you're doing. Then I'm going to jump to Walt and ask him the same.
Sure. It's Gilchrist. As in like Christmas. I give you just some of my background. I was an athlete. I was in the military. I went through a traditional management consulting background myself, except that I was fortunate enough to get bit by the entrepreneurial bug at a very young age. I think the first business I had was finding golf balls on the golf course and reselling them back to the golfers that lost them.
Smart.
At the age of about 6. Selling postcards door to door at the age of 8, and then starting an odd jobs company. But I was really fortunate that I sold my first actual company in college. It was mentored by a former NFL running back out of Chicago. and went through a traditional management consulting role for about 5 years at his direction. But that, entrepreneurial bug really bit me. And I built a lot of internal programs for companies like Sally Mae, which is now Navient, Nelnet. I was able to then go to a company called Greenwood Hall and pitch my idea on acquiring part of my old company.
Wow.
And they took a big risk on me and invested $2.5 million. And we built that company to a $13 million company in under a year. That's now known as AnswerNet. I went and pitched a similar idea, learning from my mistakes, to Carlisle, and built up a company called Presidium. We exited that in under a year for an amount somewhere between $55 and $60 million. I was really excited about that.
Nice.
Went back into the consulting side and into the government, and realized that we are not yet at the innovation level that we need to be. This was 10 years ago. We've made some strides, but I really got bit by the big data Marcom bug and started building out a marketing platform. We were able to deploy in Europe. We eroded the market share from one of the largest email automation companies out there. And within 3 years of the start, and that was completely bootstrapped, we were acquired in an asset purchase agreement by them.
Wow.
In a little company called Intelligent NV, which was associated mostly with what people know as Constant Contact. It was actually then that got me pushed directly into the cannabis industry, and it was a result of my father getting adrenal cancer. One of the treatments that they had recommended from Cancer Treatment Centers of America was a cannabis-based treatment. And my dad heard the word cannabis and immediately said, "That's not a real drug. That's not a medical treatment." He said, "I'll trust the guys in Michigan and North Carolina and go that direction." But 6 months after he passed away in 2012, they released the findings from NCI and NIH that cannabidiol, when applied directly to the type of cancer he had, showed tumor regression.
Wow.
Had he had that data, there's a good chance he would have made a different decision.
Right.
But that data was not readily available, much less accessible by anyone in the general public. And had he known how to do a FOIA request back then, possibly, but nobody even knew the data existed.
Right.
So that's what got me involved in creating New Frontier Data back in 2014.
Right.
And creating what I see as one of the preeminent market research companies out there. I wouldn't call it a big data company, but I would call it, one of those organizations and products that really helps inform the legislators, the regulators, and the owner operators out there at a level that no one was able to for many, many, many years. That's really what got me into cannabis and the keeping my entrepreneurship opportunities kind of, standing in the cannabis and the CAM related side of things. So between that and working in telemedicine, and now of course WeGro and WeGro Data, it's kind of evolved into something that is very ever present in providing actionable insights into data to consumers, patients, and businesses.
We're going to talk about WeGro Data in a minute. I'm going to switch it back to Walt. So Walt, give us a little bit of your background, and similar to what Rick did, and pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it.
It's Rampata, Walt Rampata, pronounced phonetically as it's written.
I like it.
Yeah,
with phonetics.
So my background is similar to Rick's in that I've always had the entrepreneurial bug. I too started out at a very early age and had a lawn and landscaping business at the age of 14 that was doing a lot of business over my high school years.
Right.
Fast forward, my first company that I co-founded was a company called Digital Organism. We were a web development and digital marketing firm back in 1997, 98. So this is the beginning of the interweb that Al Gore founded back then. So we saw the writing on the wall and jumped in and started developing and working with organizations on their digital platform back then. And so I've been through a little bit of the wave, so to speak, of new things happening in the world. But fast forward, I've always kind of had my foot in wanting to grow things. And so throughout my career of entrepreneurial endeavors, I've also consulted with a number of companies and worked with them to realign their management teams and their focuses on growth. I got into the cannabis industry actually for medical reasons, starting about 5, now almost 6 years ago. Wow. And at the time, I happened to be working at a publisher in Baltimore, a financial publisher, completely on the opposite side of the cannabis spectrum. But it was interesting that the lion's share of constituents that we had as customers were within the ever burgeoning cannabis demographic, the 50 plus demographic. Right. And at the same time that I was working at this publisher, I got a knock on my old consulting door from somebody who knew I'd done marketing and growth consulting, asking me to assist in getting one of the dispensaries in Baltimore launched. And it just so happens this dispensary was literally 2 blocks from the publisher I was working for at the time. So I dove feet first into trying to understand the dynamics of the industry. And as a side hustle, got badged up as a bud tender at this dispensary, and also worked on their marketing and their growth and understanding all the dynamics, both from behind the counter and in front of the counter. And at that time, went back to the publisher I was working for and said, hey, I'm talking with our demographic almost every single day in this other world. We should be talking with him in our world. Why don't we have a cannabis publication? And very quickly, within a week's time, I had a new team, a new desk, and a new checkbook. And I was starting the cannabis publication at that publisher. And to launch that publication, because you can't just drop a magazine or any type of publication just into the ether, nobody's going to know it's even there. So to market it and to get it off the ground, we developed a docu-series, a 14-hour, 7-part docu-series, 2 hours each segment, covering the called Hidden Within, the Science of Miracles. And we dove very deeply into the endocannabinoid system that's hidden within each of us, and how cannabinoids, when used properly, can unlock the miracles within that system.
Cool.
And I got to go all around the country, meeting with everybody from Ethan Russo to Raphael McCullum, and a long list of really incredible scientists and researchers and advocates around cannabinoid medicine and cannabis itself, and got an incredible education through a fire hose.
Awesome.
And it would, unfortunately, it was also one of my learning experiences around the cannabis industry, because as soon as I finished filming the docuseries and we got it all in the can and we were starting to strategize about the marketing of it, I got a nice meeting from the corporate attorneys at that publisher saying, thank you very much. We love you, but we got what we need. We'll take it from here.
Oh, great.
So fast forward after that, I stayed within cannabis. I still wanted to learn. And that summer, I started a hemp farming operation literally on my property in Pennsylvania. I was awarded one of the first hemp farming licenses as they were coming out. And I dove into trying to learn, again, from the ground up, everything I could about this plant, and went through an entire growing season, learned an immense amount about the industry, about the mechanics of the biomass and everything about sourcing. And it was just, again, an incredible learning experience. But that has since fast forwarded even further into trying to help the industry tackle some other challenges. And hence we're sitting here today with WeGro Data and the mechanics of how that impacts the complementary and alternative medicine marketplace as a whole.
So let's pause there for a minute, and Walt, Rick, whoever, tell the audience about WeGro Data and where you stand and what the vision is, and how really it's going to change the whole face of alternative medicine. Am I being too bold in saying that, or do you want to make that the tagline?
Well, yeah, maybe let me start out. Give us a headline that we can latch on to, that your audience can grab, and then from there, maybe Rick can give you some of the pictures inside the coloring book that we're painting. So WeGro is revolutionizing Web 3.0 within the complementary and alternative marketplace, providing the world's first level 2 blockchain as a service platform enabling benefits to industry and consumers and patients alike. Our flagship product set, and we have a product set, so we're building an entire ecosystem, is positioned to solve some of the most pressing and complex challenges within complementary and alternative medicine, including compliance, accountability, and security. So I'm setting the stage to let Rick kind of fill in some of the gaps and explain what all that means. But needless to say, we're very much focused on assisting in bridging the white space that we see between traditional healthcare and complementary and alternative medicine, and the gap that the patients are now sitting within.
Yeah, and kind of just to add to that, we're at the same, inflection point that we were back in '95, where is the internet here? Is it here to stay? Going from the interwebs to Web 1, and then from Web 1 to Web 2, that was the ability to read and write. Web 3 is the ability to have data sovereignty, to own your data, and to actually utilize that data in a two-way street. It's not going away, and neither is blockchain. Everybody hears blockchain, they hear the word, they think of crypto, they think of the last 9 weeks of the crypto markets, and everybody kind of runs away screaming. And the reality is that we're talking about blockchain. We're talking about interoperability and the ability to future-proof one's organization as well as an individual. What we're going to be able to provide through our blockchain as a service, or our real direct level 2 blockchain, is creating that infrastructure that'll allow companies to own and utilize data, but also put in those layers of compliance. So where we've seen the industry kind of grow over the last 8 years, from building what we had to build to now building what we need to build and what we're going to be relying on, and looking down at a top-down structure. We know what the federal government's looking at as it relates to compliancy and enforcement. We know that they're preparing over the next 6 years for getting this in place, even when it does pass. And it will, it's just not today. Right. And even if it passed tomorrow, we're talking about a 5-year plan for implementing something like that. And what are we looking at? We're looking at compliancy. We're looking at track and trace. We're looking at management. We're looking at transparency. And quite frankly, we're also supporting anti-money laundering and the ability for the government to understand exactly what it takes to run and report and properly get the right kind of data into those ecosystems. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't understand in what's being built is that blockchain isn't a panacea. It's not a cure-all. What it does is it creates that level of immutability and transparency in an industry that's not had that up to date. So between what we're building at WeGro Data and our first product, and that was a cryptocurrency called the WeGro token, we've been able to go through a proof of concept. We've been able to create a community around it. We have an 80% adoption and hold rate for that, to allow for people to transact. We announced 2 weeks ago that we launched our own L2 blockchain. In addition to that, we're going to be launching our own coin as well on that blockchain that'll allow for transacting at the consumer level. Wow. And that's something that's going to be groundbreaking.
Wow, that's great. So knowing that we're kind of wrapping this up, I just want to make sure that the folks who are listening know how to contact you guys or where to contact you, because I'm going to be having future interviews with you as WeGro Data continues to grow. So Rick, I'll start with you. If someone wants to get in touch with you or the folks at WeGro Data, and then Walt, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, you could always tag me in LinkedIn, but you can email me directly at rick@wegrodata.com. That's WEGRO, no W, DATA. So that's wegrodata.com.
And Walt? I'm real simple as well. Walt@wegrodata.com if you want to reach out to us directly. And also on LinkedIn. That's the one thing I will say about our organization. We're a doxed organization. Every one of our leaders, you can find them, you can seek them out, you can touch them on social. So please connect with us on LinkedIn. It's Walt Rampata on LinkedIn and Rick Gilchrist on LinkedIn.
And these gentlemen are great guys. I fully stand behind what they're doing. I think their company is amazing. I've seen their deck, and it's incredible. So I'm gonna actually say goodbye to the audience. So thanks, Walt. Thanks, Rick, for being my guest. And I'm going to speak to you guys again, perhaps in a couple months, if that's okay.
That'd be outstanding. We
Sounds
would
great.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Todd.
Bye.